Hey, what's up guys? So in this video, I'm gonna try to gear towards more of like the requirements that are involved when trying to join a service, whether any service it is, there's basic requirements. I'm gonna lean towards the Coast Guard a little bit more, but hopefully this helps give people an idea because there's a lot of people out there that probably don't know that there is some like general requirements. And I know you probably don't want to waste your time going into a recruiting office and just kind of going in there and just to find out you can't even join or get rejected or denied somehow. So I just wanted to just give a quick update and kind of like give some general requirements. So in the United States Coast Guard website, as of right now, the age limit is 17 years old to 41 years old. And of course, if you're 17, you're gonna need like your parents' permission, things like that. Or like they're gonna have to sign some paperwork. You have to be a United States citizen or lawful permanent resident. If you're married, no more than 3 dependents, including the spouse. GPA, there's no requirement, but of course you do need a high school diploma, and you're also going to have a score of 32 on the ASVAB, so that's kind of like the requirement. So you don't need like a GPA, but you need a certain score on your ASVAB to be able to join the Coast Guard, and that's at 32. I know other branches have like a lower standard. I know the Coast Guard used to be like around 50, but now they lowered it, probably because they need a lot of people. So those are like some general stuff. Of course, you need to meet the physical requirements and stuff like that, but I'll go into more of that. But I kind of wanted to also talk about like what it looks like from just you going into the recruiting office to like going and being deployed somewhere. So I'll kind of go through some requirements as I'm giving you guys a timeline. So basically, like once you decide like you want to go into a recruiting office and you go into the recruiting office, sorry if I keep looking at my screen. I took some notes kind of to help guide me. But basically, you decide like, okay, I want to join the service, and it can be intimidating to be like, okay, going into a recruiting office, because that's how it was for me. You're going in there and you see these guys with their blue suits or whatever they're wearing for their uniform, depending on your branch. And it almost feels like they're gonna just like, all right, you're leaving, or they push you, and you're probably just not ready, and you're just trying to figure out like, do I even qualify to even go or whatever, or to join. So when you first go into the recruiting office, some things that they're going to ask for you is like your ID. They're gonna do a criminal background check. They can do all this like on the spot. So they'll do your ID, your criminal background check. They'll do some like general questioning, like a questionnaire for like your past, or just like, and those are really like big questions for the recruiter to kind of just gauge where he's at with you, kind of like any felonies or any big debt, or kind of like a credit, kind of like seeing where your finances are, but nothing too crazy, like high school diploma, stuff like that. So he's gonna ask you for it. So yeah, so the general questions he's gonna do, I don't know if they do it here when you're with the recruiter. So if someone recently did it and they know the answer, you guys can leave a comment down below. But usually they'll do, I think, like a soft credit check. I don't know if it's in this one or when they do the e-QIP. And I'll get into the e-QIP in this video too, but basically they want to know where your debt is at, or like what kind of things are in collections and stuff like that, just to see if you're eligible. And then, so when you're also in the recruiting office, when you first go in and he's asking you all these questions and stuff like that, a good tip I would give you is like, if you're just not 100% sure and you don't know like if you want to join or not, a good strategy that you can do is like, don't take your ID, don't take your social, or pretend you don't know it, and just kind of go in there like with nothing. And that way you can ask them some questions, but you're also not tied to anything, because then you don't have your social on you. And if you know it by memory, of course you can just be like, oh yeah, I don't have it on me, I don't know it. But of course, like, and if you don't have your ID, then obviously they can't run anything or check your ID or validate you at all. So that's a good way to kind of like not feel so overwhelmed with them trying to like persuade you for your information and stuff like that. Another good thing is that there's going to be some recruiters that are very good. They're going to give you all the information right away. So they're going to tell you what bonuses are out right now. They're going to tell you what are the critical ratings. They're going to give you advice on like which rating to go into. There's a lot of people out there that have questions like about which rating should I go, which rating is the best one. There's a lot of factors that go into it. For example, your ASVAB score. Your ASVAB score is going to dictate really what you can even apply for. And if you did qualify for all the rates and you scored really high on your ASVAB, then that's when you'll get to choose a rate. But even then, there's a wait list sometimes. So it really depends on how quick you're trying to move the process. Another thing is, so when you're first at the recruiting office and you have some experience, like even if you're freshly out of high school or if you've done like the Eagle Scouts or something like that, it's a good time for you to promote yourself. So don't just go in there like making them feel so much like they can just throw you anywhere. You can kind of sell yourself a little bit, like, oh yeah, no, I have these certificates, or I've graduated with this GPA. Could I go in as an officer? What are the requirements to go in as an officer? And also, yeah, so you're just trying to like pitch at them like things that you've done, so that way you can maybe go in maybe as an E2, an E3 versus going in as an E1, because it's cool. Like if you go in as an E2, when you graduate boot camp, you'll probably be graduating as an E3, and now you're good. So no, actually, I'm not sure if that's correct. I think if you go in, yeah, you go in as an E1, you graduate as an E2, and then with time, I think with 6 months in, that's when you become an E3. But at some point, even if you perform, I know like in my boot camp company, 2 people were promoted to E3 just because they performed really well in boot camp. So that's also something to look forward to. But yeah, always try to promote yourself when you go into the recruiting office and stuff like that. So next, so basically, once you go into that office, right, the first time, and like, let's just say you go through with it. Let's say you give them your ID and you go through with the questions and you fill out like the basic form, first name, last name, address, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, okay, the recruiter's like, all right, it looks like you're good. So then the next step is gonna be like, he's gonna tell you, okay, we need to take your ASVAB and we need to do a fitness test. So if it's early in the day and he has nothing else to do, he might just want to do a fitness test then and there, and he'll make you run like at the recruiting office, like around in circles. That happened to me in my experience. I had to run around the recruiting office. They have like this set like perimeter you have to run, and they time you there, and then you can do your sit-ups there and push-ups there. So if you aren't like physically ready yet, it's good to maybe not take that step right away and go into the recruiting office. Like maybe do some workouts, prep yourself a little bit before you go in, so that way you don't have to deal with that, and that doesn't prevent you from actually joining. Another thing is too, the ASVAB, they're gonna have you maybe take a PICAT test, which is basically like preliminary ASVAB. That's like, it's just a short test that basically it summarizes the whole exam and gives the recruiter kind of a general idea where you stood at, and then all you have to do is verify it. So if you take the PICAT, basically once you go to MEPS, then you'll just have to verify your score, and if you verify it, then that's the score you stay with. So if you scored a 64 on the PICAT and you go to MEPS, you don't have to take the full test, you take the PICAT, and then you just verify your score. By verifying, I mean like it's going to be similar questions that you saw, and you just answer them correctly, and then you get to keep your score. But there is some cases, of course, where you don't get to keep your score and you have to take the whole test all over again. So I say that to say, if you're not ready to take the test, or if you are kind of scared of a certain subject like math, science, or anything, like it gives you time, take your time to study before you go into the recruiting office, so you don't limit yourself. And the reason I say that is because there certain rates are available depending on how you score on the ASVAB. So if you score too low and your goal is to become maritime enforcement officer with the Coast Guard, you can't make it because you didn't score high enough. Then you have to worry about retaking and stuff like that, and it's a whole nother thing. So you just want to go and prepare. Like if you're trying to go into like a MST, you got to do good in your sciences. So review your science subjects a little more, go on like Quizlet or ASVAB for dummies, stuff like that. And there's no shame in it. Like, of course, like especially if you're older and you haven't done some of these stuff in a while, then go for it. And if you're really intelligent, then you don't even need to watch this video. But anyways, but yeah, always review and then prepare yourself. That way when you go into the recruiting office, because that's what the recruiters are looking for. Like once they've done your little screening and got like all your general information, they're gonna want to get the ball rolling. So they're gonna say like, okay, let's take your ASVAB, let's get the fitness test out the way. Because once they get your fitness test out the way, you're basically, their next step from there is get you to MEPS. Or sometimes they'll just schedule you to go to MEPS. So that brings us to the next part of this video. So once you've already saw the recruiter and now you're getting ready to go to MEPS. At MEPS, things change a little bit. Now you have to go kind of like through step 2 of the recruiting phase. And step 2 is basically, so you're gonna go to MEPS, and this is where they're gonna do like your physical test for your health. So they want to see how physically healthy you are, how's your eyesight, how's your ears, how is your mental state, and basically they do some blood work and check if you're colorblind and check basically just anything you would do at a normal physical. They just want to see that you're good and that you're basically not going to injure yourself, and you're able to do a lot of the things that the military would need you to do, like perform certain job tasks or stuff like that. They also, at that time, you will talk to a doctor. And at MEPS, oh, I forgot to say this. So when you first arrive to MEPS, it is a little intimidating. Like people are wearing uniforms and you're gonna say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. And they sit you down in this room and you're talking there with some people, and then they give you a nasty cold sandwich for lunch with like no mustard, no mayo or anything. It's just a big piece of bread with a piece of turkey. I haven't been there in a while, so I don't know if it's changed, but hopefully it has. But anyways, so yeah, you'll go through the physical screening, you'll talk to a doctor, and the doctor's basically gonna ask you like, have you ever had problems with drugs? Have you ever thought about killing yourself? Have you ever done this or the third? At some point in the physical, the doctor, you will have to get undressed because they're gonna have to check certain areas and blah, blah. And then that's it. After that, they're going to take you to a room so you can validate your PICAT score for the ASVAB, or you're gonna take your whole ASVAB score there. And the good thing about this is that they're gonna give you your score then and there. So once you're done with your ASVAB, it is long, I'm not gonna lie, like make sure you're not hungry, make sure you get good rest, because it does take a little while sometimes. But after you're done, they will give you your score. I think they'll print it out for you at sometimes. Oh, no, you'll go talk to your recruiter and then he'll tell you how you did. And this is where things start getting serious. Oh, and by the way, if at MEPS something goes wrong, like you've had a fracture or an injury in the past, it could limit you from moving forward with the recruiting process, just because sometimes you might need a waiver. Stuff like that. I needed a waiver for one of my eyes, and it takes forever. Sometimes it can take a long time, and you will have to travel and do certain stuff like this. So just to kind of give you guys an idea, for some people this process, like even to get to MEPS, could take a lot longer, because you are going to have the idea of joining, and if you need to train or do any studying, that takes a little while. Then you finally talk to your recruiter, and then you can kind of have like a break where you're just not sure, and then you finally go through with it and you go to MEPS. This can be like 3 months. Some people do it really quick. It's like 2 months. And there's also like some incentives, like if you do a quick ship bonus, like basically if you do everything really quick and they can ship you out, then you have a bonus of like 20,000 or 15,000. I think last time one of my good friends said he got 20,000 to do a quick ship bonus, which I thought was pretty cool. I think like after taxes you get like 14,000. So if if you have any credit card debt or any kind of debt at all, that helps you like just pay that off. And then if you have a critical rating, then you get another bonus. So I don't know. Never mind. I'm getting ahead of myself here. But basically, so that's how that's gonna go. And you'll move on to the next phase, which this is gonna be the third phase. And at this point, you're probably you're about to make it. So the recruiting, everything's going good with the recruiting phase. Now your recruiter has your ASVAB score, and with your ASVAB score, he can tell you like, hey, you qualify to be an operations specialist, you qualify to be a culinary specialist, you qualify to be AMT or aviation survival technician. So whatever the thing is. And that's when your dreams are gonna crush, or you're gonna get really excited. Basically, that's where you're gonna be able to know what rates you could enlist in. So now knowing what rates you could enlist in, you can kind of pick and choose and kind of eliminate. You can use like the process of elimination to kind of get rid of the ones you don't want and just kind of go with the ones that could work for you. And one might have a bonus, and then you can be like, okay, well, I'll take that one. And that's kind of where you want to negotiate with your recruiter, kind of like, hey, well, what other options do I have? You know, if you didn't score good on your ASVAB, be like, hey, can I retake one like in 3 months? Or I'm not sure how that works, but just ask. And another thing is like, if you feel your recruiter isn't showing you so much love, or like really being as candid as he could with you, or transparent, ask around, like call different recruiters in different areas. Like, for example, if you are in a city, if you're in a town next to a lot of cities, or to 2 big cities, call all the recruiting offices and just ask them questions. That way, when you go into the office, your recruiting office that you want to go into next to your hometown, that way you can know what to ask, know what's available, and that way, that most recruiters are pretty good, but just in case, you know, so you can back yourself up. So the last step is going to be one of the harder ones. This is the e-QIP, and it's the standard form 86, which is also known as the SF 86. And this one's the hard one. It's basically, it's going to, because I'm not sure if every military branch does this, but if it's a federal job, or like if you're working for the federal government, you need to pass this clearance, because you're going to have a security clearance. The security clearance could take a lot of time to complete. Sometimes it can take up to a year, but you can still get shipped out and everything. But you will need it. You will need it at some point. So things that can like basically eliminate you from moving forward. So so it does take some time to complete. This might be like one of the last steps, and it could take you like 2 to 3 days to complete, depending on your life too, because some people, if you're older and you're coming into the Coast Guard or something like that, you've lived a long life, and maybe you might have a lot more experience, and they want to know everything about you. I mean, where you've worked. They want to know your family. Are they citizens? Where are they from? They want to know your network, like who are your friends? Who have you lived with? They want to know your criminal history, all your criminal record, if you have one. Like anything you've ever done as a kid. They want you, not as a kid, but it's usually like 10 years back. Some things that could disqualify you if you're not a U.S. citizen, if you were dishonorably discharged from the military. I think that one could be waived, but I'm not sure. If you are currently involved in drug use, they're also going to ask you stuff like that. Like, did you ever smoke? Did you ever do this? The third, have you ever had problems with addiction? It is a federal document. So when you're filling out this form, you have to basically spill all the beans and say the truth. The reason I say that, well, I'll go to that right now, but basically, if you're mentally incompetent, that can eliminate you. It'll ask you there too, like if you have any issues mentally. If you ever had a clearance revoked for security reasons? So there's a lot that goes into it. I'll put the link down below to kind of give you guys an idea of what's really required, because I don't want to read everything off to you guys, but there's a lot of things like, so these are some stuff that they're gonna ask you, like everywhere you have lived and who can verify that location, your education, who are your parents, your siblings, your spouse, and I mean like they want IDs of everyone you list. So like an ID of your mom, your dad, where they work, exact address. So like if you have family like in Spain or in Europe, they want your exact address. Everywhere you have worked, your military history, everywhere you had traveled outside of the USA. Personal questions like your employment record. By the way, they're gonna ask you like, have you ever been fired from a job? Have you ever lost a job because of this or that, the third? And sometimes they do reach out. I'm gonna get to that part next, but basically your employment record, your police record, your close contacts with foreign nationals, overseas like your use of drugs or alcohol that have been illegally or resulted to an arrest, treatment facilities, your mental state, your personal financial history, bankruptcy, like everything, whether you have been, basically everything. And I'll put this email down in the link, excuse me, that way you guys could look into it and better prepare yourself, so that way you don't get disqualified or you don't get accepted to join. Because if you don't pass this, sometimes you can't have a clearance, and if you can't have a clearance, I'm not sure exactly what happens, but it'll be very hard for you to either get a specific rating. Like if you're an operations specialist, you need to work with sensitive information, and if you're in law enforcement, you got to work with sensitive information. So basically all the operations of the Coast Guard in some way or another are dealing with some kind of sensitive information. So I'll put the link down below and just look into it. And lastly, to close, in this step, there's gonna be a lot of questions, I think, of like, how honest do you have to be, and like what do you have to put down and stuff like that. I would be as honest as you can be, just because they are gonna do a thorough background where they're eventually going to contact people on that list that you put down. Sorry, my bad, sorry for the sirens. But they're gonna call the people that you put down, they're going to look into a lot of stuff, and at some point you will have an interview with someone to discuss things on that on the e-QIP form, and they're gonna ask you questions about it. They're going to call people, and so just don't lie, just be honest. Usually you can get a waiver. And another thing to think about too is like, even if you lie and you get through, fine, but just know that like it will be hard eventually, like if you want to go into like FBI after, or some kind of job, because those also are going to do like lie detector tests and stuff like that. So it could just be harder for you, especially if they find out you're lying and stuff like that. But just try to be as honest as you can. That's what I would say. Just be honest. Some people overthink it. Some people, I know I overthought it a lot, and it was scary for me just because I had a long history. But just try to be as honest as you can, and always ask your recruiter. If you have any questions about it, just be like, hey, do I have to put this down? Or do you know how this works? I've had this in the past, but that and the third. And he'll kind of guide you. So the recruiters can guide you there. But hopefully this helps you guys out. I know it's a lot of information, but I'll go ahead and put the eligibility requirements down and the security clearances websites down, so that way you guys can just press the link and look into it. Another thing I was gonna say, once you're done with this, pretty much this puts you at the end. You'll get some notification that's been completed. And even if you haven't passed the clearance, if they deny you right away, then of course you can't continue the process. But if they don't deny you right away and it takes some time, because some people can take a long time to complete this process, like you can complete it and submit it, but of course you need to talk to someone needs to interview you for you to actually get your clearance. So you could get shipped out even without completing your clearance, and maybe like at boot camp, an investigator will want to talk to you there, or when you go to your station after boot camp or at A school, that's when you would go and talk to your, like in A school, I've known people that get interviews there. Some people get interviews at boot camp, and it's normal. It happens to everybody. They just want to make sure you're telling the truth. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. And once don't get too scared with it. It's not too crazy. Just fill it out. You'll be good. Really, they just love honesty, and they just want to make sure that you're really like invested into joining and being part of the service, and basically being like being as what is the word for it? Basically that you won't betray the United States Coast Guard, that you don't have that you don't have like relationships with allies and other people. So they just want to make sure that you're going to be a good candidate to be part of having all this sensitive information. So you need the clearance, blah, blah, blah. But anyways, to close, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and comment down below. If I don't answer, or if I take forever to answer, I'm probably busy. But I hope you guys liked the video, and sorry if I don't have all the answers. Oh yeah, and by the way, I want you guys to know that I'm not like a pro. I'm not like, I don't have all the answers to all these things. And I'm not like maybe the most qualified to give a lot of this information, but I just do it more to help you guys out and kind of give you guys some guidance. So hopefully this video helped, and anything that I can answer from my experience or from people that I can reach out to, I'll go ahead and answer. If I can't, then maybe it might take me a while to dig into it and then get back to you. But I hope you guys liked the video. And oh, lastly, all this, so basically once you're done with this, the recruiter's going to give you your shipment date, and then you're off to boot camp. And then from boot camp, you basically start your career, and you never have to think about this again. But good luck. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.